Order. Ask everybody to rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's no flag.
It's there. Use your imagination. All right, this is the portion of our meeting reserved for public comments. If there's anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to the board, now is the time to do it. Yes, please identify yourself.
My name is Casey Didier. I would like to share some thoughts on the elementary school district meeting, the preliminary map. I know it's preliminary. I'm just going to read through. I wrote down my thoughts because I just wanted to keep it moving. I can provide you with a copy. Upon reviewing the current preliminary elementary school boundary map, I have some thoughts and concerns I'd like to share with the board and administration. Number one is Title I eligibility. I'm concerned that Woodview would have a hard time maintaining its eligibility given the lack of lower income housing within the proposed map. As it stands, the only higher concentrations of apartment housing that would be going to Woodview are the Arrowhead Apartments behind the high school and Woodridge Drive near the pool. That said, Kennedy would have all of First Avenue from West Falls to Wisconsin Ave, River Lane off of 17th, 7th Ave near the Senior Center, and the apartments just off of Cheyenne, south of Highway 60. Losing out on Title I would be a strong consideration should be a strong consideration for the board and administration. I have personally seen the benefits of the said program for my own child, and I strongly feel that it prevents kids that may need a little extra help from slipping through the cracks. As a community board and district, we have discussed extensively about leveling the playing field at the elementary level. Both schools need the potential to be eligible for this great program. Plus, it's essentially free money. Number two is the vast area of the Woodview district and the population density of Kennedy. This map does not succeed to consider potential growth or projections within Grafton. Currently, there are 9, 7 of which are on Blackhawk Drive alone, lots for sale within the proposed Kennedy district. That being said, there are 35 lots for sale in the current Woodview district, or in the proposed Woodview district, plus a larger area for potential growth and new subdivisions. My concern is that as a district, Woodview would grow at a much faster rate and we'd be faced with redistricting again in a few short years. This can be disruptive and stressful to families and should be avoided if at all possible, especially when the district is not facing complete overhaul. The third is a common one, and it's bus times and distance. As it's shown, the furthest district is at the end of Lakefield Road, which is a whopping 13-minute drive with no traffic and 5.7 miles from Woodview. While this may be fine for older children attending middle school, it may be more of a concern to parents with young children, especially considering there will be likely stops along the way. If the area to the west of Wisconsin Avenue, basically the whole western side of Grafton, but south of 60 would be moved to Woodview, the furthest child would be no more than a 6-minute drive to Woodview from that point. Going east is hard to say. But that would be a 6-minute drive and a 2.3-mile commute. This would allow families on the far southeast side to attend Kennedy, shortening their drive. This would also shake up the district populations a bit more with the referendum, giving more kids a fresh start and a new beginning. Thank you all for your consideration and your hard work.
Thanks, Casey. Anyone else? Okay, then we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, the consent agenda items. There are 2, the minutes of the May 22nd board meeting. That's, so that must be
incorrect. That would be the May 8th one. Sorry.
the May 8th board meeting, and the payment of the bills. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
I've got one thought, and that has to do with sub-bullet 8 under scheduling of board meetings and minutes. I think that motion, rather than have it say that the second Monday of each month will be for committee meetings, what I motioned was to preserve that second meeting or that second Monday of the month for committee meetings. I don't want the impression to be that there will be, because there may not be. We talked about alternative nights, we talked about alternative dates, so I think that should be changed to reflect that the fourth Monday of each month is for the regular meeting, and that the second Monday be preserved for committee meetings.
Okay. So do we need to amend the motion? Who made the motion? Mark, did you make the
Mark did.
motion? Do you wish to amend that motion, Mark?
Yes, I do.
And who seconded it?
I did.
Okay, you are willing to second the motion. Okay, any further discussion, additions, corrections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and it passes. So we've got a superintendent's report.
So before I get into the articles that I have listed here, there's a couple items that happened this past weekend. The high school had their prom, so they had 190 students that attended prom, and I spoke to Mr. Manti over the weekend and then again today, and everyone had a great time, and students were well behaved and had a great experience. Great opportunity to sort of end the year as we look ahead to that. And then our girls softball team finished their regular conference season undefeated for the first time ever. And then going along with that is also their first conference title ever. So girls softball went undefeated in conference and also was conference champions. So they will play this Wednesday in the first round regional at 4 o'clock. And as we'll find out later, there's a lot of things happening this Wednesday. But that just happens to be one more thing. And if they were to win, they would play again on Friday, either at 4 or 4:30. That's still to be determined. We get to set that. And so I was talking to Mr. Moore today, and he'll work with Coach Hunt on that. So, but congratulations to the girls softball team on a great regular season. We look forward to what the postseason will hold for them. And then also congratulations to the Grafton STEM Club Rocket team. If you remember at the last meeting, we had approved the field trip request by Miss Morgan. And she, along with Coach Tracy Rutledge, took students to the Rockets for Schools competition, and they took first place in rocket construction and second place overall in the level 1 junior rocket division. So team members are Colby Hurst, Cameron Hughes, David Kurt, Zach Klug, Owen Praga, and Olivia Rutledge. So congratulations to those students. It's a great opportunity for them to receive some recognition, and they worked hard to be able to do that. And then last week, congratulations to students at Kennedy Elementary School who raised $1,620.50 for the All My Friends Playground through their Kindness Week Coin War. So we see a lot of fundraisers happening right now for the All My Friends Playground, and Kennedy took that on and raised over $1,600. So that's great to see. They had a big check. I was over there last week for their 5th grade music concert, and they had the check at that point. They were excited to be able to present that and so forth. So very cool. And then at the last meeting too, I talked about that first inaugural Journal Sentinel Sports Award night, and we'd had a number of students, 4 students, that were up for recognition, and GHS senior Autumn Habig was named the Female Swimmer of the Year. So really a big deal to be recognized in that way. So special congratulations to her. Obviously, for even being nominated is a big deal, but then to win and be Female Swimmer of the Year in the state is a huge honor for her, so we want to congratulate her for that. And then we do have elementary attendance areas update. So as Casey just mentioned, and I hope hopefully everyone knows, this is just an update. This isn't a discussion item. We met last week. Topher and I met with Right Way for the first time to see an idea of what they're looking at as a draft. And what they did is they took just the amount of riders that we have on the bus, and they broke it into half. And they said, you know, this is getting us pretty close to where it would be. We then have taken that, and Rick has a map that is very ingenious, and he can take a map and it can show us different colors for students and the color that they are selected for. KDS is dark blue, Woodview is orange, and GES is light blue. So he can take a map and he can show where exactly people are located wherever they are. And the numbers mean that's how many people in the family attend our school system. So if it's 1, they have 1. If it's 2, they have 2. If it's 3, they have 3. In the elementaries, that would go with 10. So we can see that the way it currently is set up is even down in this area here, you have people that are next door neighbors, that one would go dark blue is Kennedy and light blue is GES. So we have people that live next to each other, that even though we talk about neighborhood schools, still don't go to the same neighborhood school because of just maybe there was a space issue, whatever it may be with that. If we scroll, if you bring it down for me just a little, Carol, and you can see it becomes, you'll see different colors represented here as well. You'll see orange, light blue, blue, orange, light blue, blue. A lot of those pieces going up, you can see in this area here, you have some people that are Woodview, some people that are Kennedy, some people that are GES. So we can sort of see across the map where these people are going and what that looks like. And it gives us an idea of where people currently are. So, so we took a look at that, and we had a discussion with them about this and so forth. And really, the goal tonight is to share with you what we've done so far, some of the questions that we know we need to find out information for, and to hear additional questions that you'd like us to research or data you'd like us to bring back for our June meeting. So some of the things that we know that we discussed with them is things that we still need to find out are the hazardous transportation plan that needs to be reviewed with the sheriff. This is an opportunity for us to take a look at that transportation plan and are there hazardous areas that possibly could be resolved and allow us to have walkable, bikeable areas to schools. They'll go with that. That has to be reviewed with the sheriff. I've reached out to the village and the town for information about new developments, how many new developments are coming in the next 3 years, looking at a Right Way's current map. So if you can bring up Right Way's current map, Kara. You can see empty spaces, and so in the town, Casey gave us some data that would go with some of those pieces, but you can see here's the Kennedy area, here's the Woodview area, and where are some of the subdivisions that will be coming in the next 3 years? How many units will that be? So we've reached out to the town and village asking for more information about that. One of the ideas that we discussed with, that Right Way brought forward, is that some districts have done, is they do a shared neighborhood. And what that means is in a very dense area, they may say, well, this is a shared neighborhood, so based on how enrollment is going at each school, that neighborhood could either be a Kennedy or a Woodview, depending on the year and so forth. That isn't something we'll be recommending to you, but it was something that we discussed with them. What we asked them to do is, what are other people doing? What are the ways to evenly divide this out for a long range, so it isn't something we're coming back together and discussing. Obviously, I've had multiple emails from parents about grandfathering students. Are we going to grandfather? Is the board interested in grandfathering students into their current area? And you can see that, looking back at that, the map that Rick has, that there's a number of people. Even if we were to say this area up here is Woodview, there's multiple people that are already, there's students, we don't know, if we click on it, we can see what the grade level is. But, are they interested in grandfathering? Are you interested in grandfathering for a fifth grader, but not for anyone else? All those questions you can sort of keep going down the line. Those are questions that I know I'm having, and I believe you are getting as well, that would go with that. And then also part of the discussion will revolve around open enrollment students. What about open enrollment students? Where should they be going? Does that matter? So those questions that would go with the attendance boundaries. So those are the things that we know that we need to get more information. And I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday that we met with them. We were on site visits on Friday, so that's why pretty quick turnaround time to try and get you information by Thursday when knowing about the office on Friday. So we wanted to have this as something that would, we know parents are very interested in this plan. We want to be able to just get some more data, bring some information back to the board that would go with that. So other information or questions that you want us to research more?
If you could look into, as Casey had mentioned, especially with only the 2 bridges over the river, really looking at what it would look like to have those west of the river near First Ave and everything going to Woodview. Because when I looked at it, I was kind of concerned about the number of cars having, we already know there's only 2 bridges and there's no time soon that we're expecting a 3rd bridge over that river, would be to try to decrease the amount of students having to, and parents trying to cross that bridge, which is already crowded.
Okay.
And then was this drawn up, just out of curiosity, like total blank slate? That Right Way looked at it as if we had just walked in as, not as where was Kennedy and Woodview before, but just as and GES, just as a blank slate on what's the best way to draw it for 2 schools.
So Right Way developed this based on the goal of no one being on the bus longer than 45 minutes.
Okay.
So that's what they based it on, is like, we want no one on the bus longer than 45 minutes. And so what does that look like as we look at this, as well as evening it out for the enrollment? And they didn't have, they don't have walkers. They don't have things like that in their enrollments. They just have people that sign up for the bus. So that's what they based it on. And then as we looked at it, we can see that there's some disparity that goes with that because they didn't have some of those other numbers.
As far as the hazardous areas go, if there are any areas that are due to infrastructure that can be easily repaired, like let's say a sidewalk gap or something like that, do we plan on working with the town and the village to address those issues?
We would like to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we think this is a good opportunity to have that discussion. I know Jamie has had some of those discussions, and we'll continue that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Are we going to reform that committee? That's the liaison committee between the school district and the village and the town? Maybe have
That's a
maybe
possibility.
summer?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, that'd be good. That's a possibility.
Yeah. Start talking about it.
Yeah.
One more question. So
Mm-hmm.
the goal is also to do away with the shuttles, correct?
The goal is to do, the goal is to develop something that the board would like us to develop. If you grandfather students in, then there'll be shuttles. So like, that would be the eventual goal, would be to not have shuttles. We know that the Great Way is not proposing that there's going to be a decrease in busing costs because of, if we want to keep students not on the bus for an extended period of time, there may need to be more routes being run to keep that time down. So even with some of the shuttles runs that they've had, the preliminary that they gave to us, it would not be a decrease in cost, even with losing shuttles eventually.
I mean, I would kind of like to know how much the shuttles are costing us each year.
We can get you that. We have that.
How many kids are?
And how many kids are utilizing them?
How many kids are being shuttled? So like the kids that are supposed to be in Woodview but go to GES or Kennedy or whatever, whatever it may be, okay? Would you like that broken out by like, from each school? Yeah, all right. So how many kids are being shuttled, or it's almost, yeah, displaced is the right word, but not going to their neighborhood school, and how many of them are going there, okay?
And that adds to their day, correct? I mean, it takes time
It
for them
does.
to be shuttled from
You would
place to
assume
place.
yes. You would assume
And
yes.
that's every day.
And remember that we're, yep, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And the reason why we did this, because you may say, well, did you take 4th and 5th graders out? And we didn't, because we're trying to say, well, this is what we have right now. If this had happened this is K-5, right, pre-K through 5 right now, which gives us an idea of what it would look like 2 years from now. So we don't have broken down how many 4th graders are in this mix and so forth, and, wouldn't be part of the issue, because they'll be in 6th grade by the time we move into this in 18-19. We're just saying, if on average this occurs, then this is what it looks like now.
Can we project who will be using the shuttles in 2 years?
We can, if I know some of the answers to some of those other questions.
Okay.
Like, if you know what I mean, with the grandfathering piece.
Because maybe it doesn't affect that many students.
Yep. We could look at that to say, so you're saying like 3rd and lower? If we looked at 3rd grade and lower?
Yes.
Could this also include the data of those students who have enrolled for next year? We've already done kindergarten and K-4 registration for next year, yeah?
We have.
So can we include that data in there, as those kids will likely be still with us in 2 years? Even though they're not, some of them may not
Right.
even be current students,
Correct.
but will likely be our students when the time comes. So can we add in that data?
Yes, then we'd almost want to take, I think you'd almost want to take 5th grade out, though. I mean, you'd have to have a balance and we'd have to look at trends of like, what does 4K data look for us compared to what kindergarten data looks for us, long term for them. So we might be able to look at that.
And do we know also, with the current people that are in our school district, there's a lot of people who have younger kids that we know are going to possibly be in our district. Do we know any of that data?
We do not. No, we don't know. So like, if you have like a 3-year-old right now,
Mhm.
we don't have data that would go with that.
Can we get, is it possible to get that, is it like census?
We don't have it. We don't have that data, because they could choose any school to go to. They could choose a private school, they could come here. so we don't have that.
Okay. And I also do agree with what Casey and Harry had mentioned about where you have First Avenue west of that. It just seems to make more sense to bring those kids up to Woodview just for location purposes especially. A lot of people.
Yeah, we can look to see what that number looks like, because we can run the, we can, this is truly, them getting something started so that we can have the discussion. And I think probably no matter where they pick the line, we would be saying, what about this? What about that? Which is the idea, and that's why we're bringing it forward now. I mean, we could have waited till later and had more information for you, but I think it's definitely a hot topic. We've heard from multiple people that they want to see something, so this is to get discussion going so that we can come back with other ideas or data points that would go with that.
But in light of that, Jeff, do we have a timeline for the decision and the process for communication, the process for seeking input, or is it just going to be an agenda item?
So currently what we have is we've told parents that by the end of the summer, by beginning of school, that we would have an answer on this process. So we brought it forward now. We will have it as a discussion item in June, and then based on that discussion, it'll be a discussion item again in July, and possibly a decision could be made by then, or another discussion item in July and a decision being made at the August board meeting. So I think depending on how the June discussion goes, the data that we've been able to pull out, some of the different information that you're asking for, some of the information that we already know we need to get for you, the board can make a decision at that point to add it as a discussion item. Could be an agenda item or an action item in July, or it could be another discussion item into August. If the board at the June meeting were to say, we'd really like to just have a separate hearing on this, we could also do that. I guess it depends on the feeling of the board and the community input that you're looking for. We've promised by the end of the beginning of the school year, and we're on process with that very well.
Do we have families split at the elementary level that have kids go to one school and one go to the other?
I can think of a family that's split currently.
I mean, there
I don't know
has
how
been
many there are.
subsidized situation.
Yeah, well, no, it's a child in early childhood who's at Kennedy, and then their other child attends Grafton Elementary School, the other two.
Early childhood would be an exception. That would make sense, but I don't think Karen, Craig, Michael.
A couple of years ago, I believe,
Do you
we
think
did
of anyone?
have one at GES and
Okay.
Woodview.
Okay, so if there's, they can't think of anyone. I mean, obviously I'm asking them off the cuff here. But
There was.
off there, but right
There
now.
was not, no, I don't, not that I know.
So none right now.
The 45-minute timeline that you picked for this, what's the longest right now that anyone is on the bus, do you know?
I do not know that. Topher, do you know the answer to that? The longest that anyone currently is on?
No longer than 45 should be the rule.
That's what they said was the rule, and I hadn't heard, in all honesty, I hadn't heard that rule until Right Way said that when they'd done this before, that was the goal that was done a couple of years ago, so.
And in the beginning of the year, there are occasions where you're going to have a situation where, because they're just developing those routes, you'll get someone longer as they work to get those routes situated properly.
But that, you said that only includes 45 minutes actually on the bus, but there's no guarantee that those buses will be at the schools right when they get out, because we've had that problem this year.
Yep, there's no guarantee.
And if they have a shuttle, it's 45 plus the time for the shuttle.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep, they don't take in the shuttle as a count. Yep. Okay, so now the next step is moving into the June meeting, and months ago, my family put together a family reunion in Washington State, and at that time, it didn't seem like missing a board meeting in June was going to be that big of a deal. That, my opinion has changed about that. And so what I'd like to recommend to the board is looking at calendars and so forth, is to move our June 26th meeting to Thursday, the 22nd of June. I reached out to each of you to make sure that we don't have a conflict. Julia is out of town that whole week. I mean, she's graciously said that she would be okay with us still having the meeting on the on the 22nd, but everyone else will be able to make that meeting. And so I would like to be able to be at the meeting as well, if possible. And so I'd like to recommend that we move that meeting to the 22nd. We'll communicate that with families and so forth. But as we put this data together and information together, it'd be great to be able to do that. And although it is Kara Kane's birthday, maybe we could bring cupcakes.
I'll hold you to that.
But I think last year, she was on an interview with me on June 22nd. So in just a year, how quickly time flies. And we have different meetings.
Well worth it.
Okay. So we will announce that, we'll motion that and so forth to the community and have that ready then. And that'll give us time to put all the information together for you as well on data you're requesting. Moving on to special board meeting for approval of bond sales. So looking ahead to this Wednesday, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of things going on this Wednesday. We have, later you'll see the design charrettes where the high school starting at 3 o'clock. After the site visits, the elementary is at 3:45, softball's at 4. And then at 6 o'clock, we have 2 different items that will be on the special board meeting agenda. One is the approval of bond sales. So as you recall at our last board meeting, Mike Clark from Baird had recommended that we go on a different day than typical to see if we could get a better interest rate and to get more bidders on our sale of our bonds. So basically, we'll find out what our final interest rate is going to be, and the board will approve the sale of the bonds this Wednesday. And then the second item is the investment of bond proceeds. So Brett Whedon from PMA, after the approval of the bonds, he'll be coming to discuss options to invest some of the bond proceeds. We won't be drawing down on all 30 million immediately. So he'll be talking about examples of different financing or investment options that we can do with the bond proceeds. So that's the special board meeting this Wednesday. So that's at 6 o'clock. So a reminder on that. And then a follow-up on Most Likely to Succeed. We had our documentary, the education documentary, last week. We fought with the best night of the year. The best night of the year won. I think it was 82 degrees that night. And so we had like about 15 people in attendance. Good conversation from those that were there at the end. We did ask them to fill out a survey. We had 7 people fill out that survey. We'll share that information with TLC. It's hard to make any assumptions about 7 people in our community filling out a survey, but their thoughts will be passed on to TLC. We've had a number of people reach out since then asking, could I see that? And you pay for each viewing, and so we'd already sent that back, and so that's not something that is available to others. But there may be other districts that are looking. I've had other superintendents reach out to me to potentially show it in their district and their community. So there may be something for someone else in the community to be able to watch. And then GEF Color Blast. I have, Carrie's going to remind us of the GEF Color Blast on June 6th.
There is the GEF Color Blast on June 6th, encouraging all community members to sign up. You don't have to attend the school. If you know anyone, even outside of Grafton, who would like to come, it is a great event. It will be held that night. If it rains, it's June 9th, I think, so hopefully it'll be sunny. That you can, this year, for the first time, go to Port Washington State Bank if you have enrolled early and pick up your packet beforehand, which is nice because then if anybody remembers from past times, you've waited in line to try to pick up your stuff, that you can pick it up at Port Washington State Bank. There is a discount if you register early online, so I would encourage everyone to do that, save some money. Also, the Grafton Educational Foundation wanted people to know they are in need of a secretary, if anyone is interested in becoming a board member for the Grafton Education Foundation, or they also need an auction chair for their Super Bowl. So if anyone is interested in helping them out in that area, I know they would greatly appreciate any support. And the prize patrol will be coming soon. So that's what they wanted to share.
Excellent. And then for SWSA update, Julia's going to share on that.
Yeah, sure. Joe and I attended the May 9th meeting of the SWSA meeting. It was our annual monthly meeting. And the topic was how to start community conversations about mental health. And just some facts for you guys. Based on information from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 50% of all lifetime cases of mental illness begin by age 14 and 75% by age 24. I didn't know that. There was a panel discussion about how to best support student mental health services. In addition, Dr. Andy Garbus presented approaches for engaging families, schools, and community stakeholders to support children's and adolescents' social development and education outcomes. Our next meeting is June 13th.
Excellent. And then Mark showed me something right before the meeting that was
so
worthy of mentioning.
If anybody happened to get the Grafton Record, there was a very nice article about the Hogan family, who has 3 graduating seniors this year, but gave a very good shout out to the Grafton School District and some of our staff. So if you have a chance, I would recommend reading it. It was very, very well put and advantageous for the school districts.
Excellent. And speaking of that, last week we also, on that Wednesday night, which is the second nicest night of the spring, we had a senior parent night, a senior daughter and parent night with a local DEA agent in Ozaukee County, and he spoke to the girls about, as they leave Grafton High School and either go to college or the workforce or wherever it may be, just the dangers that are out there, and shared various statistics of, he'd said I think like 1 in 5 girls as they leave high school fit into a category of being raped at some point. And it was a staggering statistic, and he said there's various levels of that, but it's truly an epidemic, and being aware of who your friends are and being with somebody, and no matter where you are. And it was really, we had 52 people there, so it was a great opportunity. We received a couple emails from various people that were there. Mr. Anti had set that up with the DEA agent, and so hopefully something will continue, but just helping people as they leave our safe community and go somewhere else to be safe, and being able to have a family, a loved one to be able to talk to about difficult situations and so forth. So hopefully it's something we'll have as an annual basis.
All set?
And that is it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any questions for Jeff? So next agenda item is committee assignments. We reshuffled the committee assignments a little bit. Have we officially wrapped finance and facilities together now? We aren't really meeting. Do we have any reason to keep the facilities committee intact anymore? I think we pretty much combined those, correct? So
I don't think we've officially done that, but yeah, that's true. We haven't.
I think then now we'll officially do that.
Sure. Yep.
So I'll just read them out loud. I mean, you can post these, but the finance committee will be composed of Kaler, Lorgie, and Ziegler. Lorgie is chair. Curriculum committee will be Mail, McNally, and Walls. Walls is chair. Marketing is Mail and McNally, and Carrie Walls offered to be on it. I think that makes sense to have 3 people on. I don't think it's crucial, but since Carrie has generously offered, that's fine. McNally is chair, and policy is Walls, McNally, and Nauta. And McNally is chair on the policy committee. The policy committee will, it's one of, I look at all these committees that we had a facilities committee, of course, now that we're wrapping into finance. All very active committees doing lots of work in the last year since we started them, except for policy. That kind of got put on the back burner a little bit because of the pressing issues at hand. So we need to bring that to the forefront. And so in June, we'll talk a bit about some policies that have come to the table that you're going to need a vote on, Jeff, correct, and some recommendations. So when that happens, we'll come up with a strategy for putting policy committee agendas together and for a schedule. So that'll then become in the forefront, and we'll review the policies on a rotating basis. So
If there's a couple policies that we want to be looking at on June 12th. That some have to do with our auditors that they've asked us for, and some is internal for us that we know is pressing. So there's just a couple of them that we want to get attention to on that 12th, but then from there develop with the policy committee of what would we like to start working on. So we'll jump start it at that time, and the last item can probably be, future agendas or where to start, and so we can have a discussion about that. But there are a couple that we need to get going on, and we'd like to do that in June.
And Terry, I just wanted to make a correction, because Jeff and I had spoken to Joe about Joe being the chair of the Marketing Communications Committee.
Right.
So I'm not the chair of 2 committees.
That's right. I was in on that and I forgot. Sorry,
You
Joe.
asked me.
And then you can just,
The other thing we talked about was maybe changing the name of Finance Committee to Finance and Operations.
Sure.
I don't know if anybody has a strong feeling about that or not.
Does anybody?
So there's no buildings and ground committee anymore, or is there?
Facilities, no.
Okay,
Correct.
no buildings.
That way to kind of wrap facilities into that under operations.
So there's 4 committees?
Correct.
There is no.
But finance and operations, it is how it's functioning, especially with wrapping in the facility, so that's fine, we can rename that.
And then for Tier 1, that's what the Finance Committee is doing with more of the operations, meeting with Hoffman and everything?
Correct.
Will we be getting updates about those meetings?
Absolutely.
You're getting one tonight, because we just met last week, so that's the first thing on the construction update. We'll deal with the things that we talked about with them. So every time we meet, you'll have an update from them. I'll always provide that update.
Okay, and is there a plan to have the whole board maybe review, like with a work session or something, before the final plans are submitted?
Well, so the design charrettes are next week, which we'll be posting for the board to be there at. And as Hoffman moves forward, if there are design pieces that go along with that, we can bring that to the board to review. It's really up to the board as to what you'd like to look at with that way. But that's where we are now, is we're looking at design charrettes, and we don't have another meeting scheduled with them to look at design pieces after that.
So what is this Tier 1 concept?
So our owners group is really, so it's the administration meeting with Hoffman to basically get an update. So for example, after our last meeting, that's why on Friday we sent out another update to our whole community of the various things that had happened with the construction updates that we've done so far. So they'll talk to us about whatever is the upcoming things, if they're needing something from us, decisions that go with it. Right now, it's a lot to do with consultants that they had hired, some of those various pieces that go with that. But it's a bi-weekly meeting of anything that's coming along.
So we'll have to have some touch points for the whole board so that the rest of the board feels comfortable that they're in on the information if you need it beyond updates. I mean, I do think, Carrie, you're right, that if we're going to make some major decisions, the board needs to look at it, of course. The Tier 1 committee is about design, budget, and schedule. I mean, that's really what we're meeting to talk about. I don't think, we talked about that at the first meeting. How much latitude does Hoffman have? How much latitude does the administration have? I think it might be something, since this is uncharted territory, that we sort of develop as we go. The board needs to feel like they have enough information. If the update does it, that's great. If after these design charrettes does it, that's great. But if people feel like, wait, I'm out of the loop, I haven't heard enough, we'll put it on an agenda and have more updates on an official basis like that. But in a way, none of us has been through this before. I'm not exactly sure how much, we need to bring it to the full board every time, or how much latitude we give Hoffman or the administrators. So there'll be a little bit of a work in progress, but it's been clear that everybody feels like we really want to be at least apprised of the situation before we make big decisions, and we need to make sure we honor that.
Some of the decisions are things that are relative to Jamie's expertise. So with LED lighting and the amount of lumens it should be, and like plumbing and no drip faucets and all these different things that are energy efficiency pieces and things like that. Those are the things that we're relying on his expertise to be dealing with them on. Even as we did the site visits, if you recall, and after the site visits, we had that share around from staff asking questions about lighting, and Jamie's saying, well, no, this is 5,000 lumens, is like natural light. What you said, right?
Right.
Okay. See, I was listening. And so those are some of those pieces that he's following up with them in technical terms of various pieces.
And I guess the other piece too is, as construction begins, there will be, I believe it's weekly meetings.
There'll be weekly construction meetings
each
with
of the projects.
at each site.
At each of the sites.
Correct.
So decisions have to be made in a relatively timely manner. And right now, by contract, the owner's rep is vested in the superintendent.
Correct.
We as a board need to be apprised of the design and the design initiative. I would think to some degree we should be able to set up some type of data room that as these designs are coming through, that they can be shared with the board. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we want to make sure that they are regularly shared with the public, because the design charrettes are out there, or will be out there. Now, you said next week. I'm assuming you meant
I'm sorry, I
in 2
meant
days.
this week. Yeah, it's this Wednesday. I have it on my thing, but yes, it's this Wednesday.
And are those absolute final designs of every element of the project?
No.
No. But they are the direction that we're headed at this point in time. I mean, village meetings are coming up middle of July, right? I mean, so things are moving at a very quick pace. And it'll be incumbent upon all of us to stay current with the information, to bring forward the questions that we have relative to that information. And as we get through it, then to continue to share with the public.
And Julia Hoffman has said that the village has been great to work with. Jessica has given feedback on various things and ideas, but there are going to be certain restrictions that they have in place for us, as well with some of the exteriors that we have. That doesn't really impact the interiors. Now, working with the fire marshal, working with the police, like those will, but those are pieces that we're having those meetings with them to make sure the experts that deal with that are comfortable and are happy for that. But like, you know, the charrettes, I mean, you really had the staff go on elementary site visits, and they saw some ideas. We'd love to see a collaboration space, okay? Well, now they're going to bring back, this is what we thought you meant when you said collaboration space, and they're going to get feedback on that moving forward. So, you know, a lot of those pieces, the interior pieces, the key is that we have the exterior approvals and a general idea of the interior so that they can have shovels in the ground on September 5th.
Okay, so these meetings are twice a week, you said?
Bi-weekly, every other week.
Every other week, okay.
Once construction starts, there'll be weekly construction meetings at the site. That will be different than the owners group. That will just be an update at that site.
And would we
And
have,
they don't know when that is.
as board members, would we have the opportunity to sit in on these Tier 1 meetings?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Well, now we're going to get into them posting. We're going to post for the meeting.
Okay.
It isn't a board meeting. It's
No,
really
I said board-
administration's
that's right, that's
meeting.
board.
Because this isn't a board committee.
Right.
This isn't a board committee. We have board members there so that the board has a voice at the table. But we can do whatever you'd like. But it won't be a board committee that goes with that. It is still an administrative function of looking at that and sharing information with parents and community and so forth.
But if you have a high interest in that, sure, you can show up and, that's fine.
Okay.
They will need to be posted.
Yeah. To post.
So, yeah, I guess if any of the other board members want to come to that meeting, just make sure you let Jeff or Karen know.
Sure.
So that we can
If we get
post
the
it.
dates ahead of time. Great.
I would suggest that they all be posted then.
Just like this Wednesday, I haven't asked any of you if you're coming on Wednesday, but we're going to post just because you may, and that'd be great if you do, but if you don't, that's okay as well. But we've posted for that.
Okay, any other questions? Moving on to our personnel report.
So you'll see in front of you, we have a new hire. We have Maggie Condon, who is going to be coming in as our choral music instructor. She has 6 years of experience. The last 4 she's been at DeForest High School. And so she is happy to be joining us. Mr. Manti had a 2-part process where they had an interview team, and then they had 2 finalists come in and actually instruct a lesson at the high school and had an opportunity to meet with students and parents. And so she had some great references, and we're happy to have her be joining us. So we would recommend that you approve the hiring of Maggie Condon. And then as just informational only, we have our new hires that will be, one has started and one will be starting, is Tammy Kaczynski is our enrollment coordinator purchasing agent in the district office. Kate Nestler will be our part-time receptionist office coordinator in the district office. And then a resignation of Lynn Boss, who's a kindergarten aide for Grafton Elementary School for the 17-18 school year.
Do we have a motion to accept those recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions for Jeff? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Mentor program.
Yep, so I've asked Diana to come and share with us. We have a mentoring program currently. We had a different one a couple of years ago. I've asked her to come and sort of update you on what we're doing looking forward into next year. If you just saw the SWSA email about the Hanover report that happened in May of 2017, it talks about induction and mentoring of staff. The executive summary, if you'll read that, which is probably the best thing to read, it talks about the importance of an induction program, of a high-quality induction program, in terms of attracting and retaining quality staff. And it isn't just having a program, but it's also having it be high quality. And so It's timely that that email just came out today, but Diana's going to walk us through what that will look like in the Grafton School District.
Right, thanks. So yeah, I took some of my little notes, we think alike. So, like Mr. Nelson said, one of the most important things we do as a district is attract and retain quality teachers and provide onboarding or induction for them. So I'm just going to reference the 2-column document that you have first, just to show that we do currently have a mentoring program. Prior to my coming on board in Grafton, there were stipends with the program, and we're bringing that back for next year. So this document just kind of highlights what we currently are doing and some additions. So just to, I want to highlight one addition in particular, which is an idea that came out of one of our administrative meetings about having some online learning prior to the first time that the new mentee meets with their mentor. So I'm currently working on creating a homegrown course in Canvas. We're going to use Canvas to do that, and it will include important information, professional development from the year prior to the person coming on board, links to our websites, things that they should see that they can then, when they first meet with their mentor, they can ask questions about. So I'm currently working on that right now. So that's I'm excited about that addition. Another thing to point out, which I'll point out both in this and in the mentoring program handbook, is there's going to be 2 tiers of mentoring, Tier 1 and a Tier 2. So Tier 1 would be mentoring for new teachers to the profession. So if they're in their first 3 years of teaching, they need a different level of support typically than a teacher who has 4 or more years of experience but is just coming to Grafton for the first time. So I've kind of outlined the difference between those levels of support as well as expectations for the teacher. And then for the teachers who have experience but are new to Grafton, instead of attending all the sessions, learning sessions, we have 4 learning sessions, they'll come to the first one and the last one, which is a celebratory one. And instead, they will have a personalized learning path where their mentor can help them. So it's personalized to their level of experience, their particular content area, and sometimes that includes going outside of the district. So for example, Jen Griffith this year being our library media digital specialist, she went outside of the district to 2 different districts and shadowed people with that same job. So it was very personalized for her because there was nobody in the district that she could learn her job from. So that's just an example. And then I just want to point out a couple things in the mentor handbook. One is on page 4. You'll see the different tiers of support. Each of them are for a full year, but if the person is a new teacher in the first 3 years, we do want them to meet weekly for support with their mentor throughout the first semester and bi-weekly throughout the second semester. We want them to have to watch their mentor teach and have their mentor watch them also, and there's a form in here that they fill out. We also want a coaching cycle with their instructional coach. And we did do that this year, and that worked out very well. So it can be a 4 to 6 week cycle depending on what they're teaching. So if they are a specialist in literacy, they're teaching 3rd through 5th grade, for example, then it might be a cycle of a writer's workshop or reader's workshop or something like that. So there's several layers of support. They would attend all 4 learning sessions and fill out things along the way. So they would document their meetings, their notes from their meetings. There's a checklist, a full checklist of things that mentors would cover throughout the year. The Tier 2 support, like I said earlier, would be more of a personalized pathway dependent on the needs of that teacher. It could include coaching, because coaching can be included for anybody, but it wouldn't be a definite necessity like it is for a brand new teacher in a Tier 1. So I just wanted to, I'm also working on training of mentors. So in the past we have used the consortium through Cardinal Stritch. We're looking to personalize a little bit more for our district and be a little bit more cost efficient in our programming. So again, using Canvas, I'm putting together some modules of learning. There's a very nice online resource put out by University of Washington, Seattle, and then I'm going to take that and personalize it. And in Canvas, you'll see in the demo in July, you can do assignments, and they'll be reading articles and be responding in a community forum with other mentors. So that's really exciting too. It's going to be very personalized for Grafton. So I wanted to open it up if you guys had any questions.
How much specific guidance does the state give you in terms of they require a mandated mentoring program? Do they say how they want it to look, or there's some touch points you have to hit, or just have to have one?
It's very, very, very vague. You just have to have something in place for to support teachers. So it's very vague, but you know, in the last 2 years, I've gotten feedback from people who have been mentors in the past, new teachers in the last 2 years sessions, and other districts. And that's why, you know, believing in supporting our teachers, I really feel strongly that increasing our support is a really good thing for the teachers.
Is there an evaluation process at the end of each year, for instance, that the mentee would fill out? How valuable is a program? How did it work? How did it not work?
So the last 2 years, we have asked for feedback. So our last session was last week, but the session prior to that, there was an online survey, and they gave some feedback around what was most beneficial, which they did say overwhelmingly was their time with their mentor. But this year, their mentor time officially was only in August. Unofficially, lots of them reached out to, you know, mentors throughout the year, but they didn't have one specific go-to mentor for the year. So that the other thing that they valued the most was being in other people's classrooms and getting that feedback. So we have done some online surveys. They also, every new teacher set a personal goal and then reflected on that goal as well. And they had a plan, their principal helped them with the plan. A lot of times it included a visit to someone else's classroom or planning time with a teacher. And then they gave feedback around that and self-reflection. So there'll be a component of that in here as well.
So each year, there will be a survey
Yes.
that's required to be completed
Yes,
and turned in, okay.
yes.
Anything else for Diana? Thank you. We have a food service update.
Yes, so Linda's going to come and talk to us about both our lunch program overview as well as lunch prices for the 17-18 school year.
Okay. I don't know whatever you want. Okay. Actually, I think I'll do the update first. Basically, one of the things for next year, USDA put out another policy that requires that all school food authorities that operate under the federal lunch program have to have a clearly written and communicated policy to address all unpaid meal charges, and that has to be in place by July 1st, 2017 now. So what it has to do, it has to be provided in writing to the school families, either by mail, email, in a back-to-school packet, student handbooks or whatever. So what I have, what you have in your board packet is I have a policy, it's in, I think you've got it. This would be something that would be available at registration, online, email. The policies would also be on the website and so forth. But this is how I was going to communicate those policies. We do have them right now on our website for the various policies, but again, you know, it has to be in writing to the families. So every year I do put out the new school lunch prices and so forth. So this is a draft because you haven't looked at the school lunch prices yet, but that would have, so this would be a draft for this next school year. And in it, it does then detail the different policies at the different levels of what happens when a family goes into the negative and what we do and so forth. It also would give them information on how to make payments. The last block actually in this handout does talk about if they need help with free and reduced applications, and then there's a whole nother, section with that. But basically, this would be our handout as far as that goes. So I don't know if you got a chance to look at that or anything, or if there were any questions regarding our policies. Basically, they've been in effect for years. The only thing that does change is at the middle school, where we cut the students off at middle school changes based on the lunch prices, because as the lunch prices go up, we give them a little more leeway in there and so forth, so they can have at least a couple lunches into the negative at the middle school. So that's one of the things I wanted to just make you aware of. And then you want to go to the school site, or the other, and then Nutri-Slice, yeah. The other thing that I was going to mention is, and we've been advertising a little bit on this, is the new Nutri-Slice menu, interactive menus. Karen, if you want to go, this comes up if, anywhere on the site at their own schools and so forth, go to John Long. This would be an example of the John Long one, and then if you want to highlight over, what it does is that it does tell the nutritionals for the different food items. Go to one that has a picture. It does have, I can put in our own pictures on that, and we'll describe and so forth and so we have been using this as far as the menu. The other thing that it will do is that on the side are different various widgets go up to the view carb counts way at the top. Yeah. Can you see it?
I can't see it. No. Is that it?
One down.
Down here.
One down.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
All right. So this would be, this is not, obviously we don't have the data in yet, but over summer we'll have all of this data filled in. But this will be effective for, especially with school nurse and that too, for students that need carb counting. What also, and it's not showing yet on there, but there will also be for allergens that they can, they sign something that just says that, maybe not all the information is accurate and so forth, and then they go in, but then it will have also on the menu itself, it'll cross off items, like for instance, if they're gluten-free, or if they have a gluten allergy, would cross off any items on the menu and so forth. So there'll be a lot of different changes and so forth out of that. Also on there, it does have live links. Yeah, click on that one now. This one, for example, would go to the e-funds where they can make payments. Rick we have updated as far as there's also a mobile app now for parents. That was one of the things that they were asking about, whether they can pay from their phone. So that is, information on there. There's also, can you go back onto this? There's also a lot of different information as we go down. We've got our vegetable of the month, goes into handouts on that. There's an app for students that they can bring up the menu on their phones and so forth. So it's a nice feature that way. And like I said, we're trying to get it all updated and everything in there. The other thing that it will eventually, with this system too, we can do digital signage. If hopefully in the new high school cafeteria and that too, eventually I want to at least put in so that down the road we could do digital signage, but then over the lines and that, it would have the food items, the menu, and it would also have the nutritionals right available for that too. So so it's a nice system that we've gotten into as far as that goes. So and then there's a lot of different other widgets. Like another thing that we have to do is alert students or families to where there is summer feeding even though we don't do summer feeding in the area. And so we can link, I can go on, I have to do that yet, by the end of this school year, but link to the DPI site, and the DPI site then will show, where there is summer feeding available for different students and so forth. So anyways, I wanted to alert you with that, so we're trying to, get to people to utilize it more and so forth. And then they can print their menus right off of from this site and everything too. Okay, now we go to the lunch prices. The other information in your packet is on the food service meal fees. Go back. Okay. And this, again, with the USDA's paid lunch equity regulation, all school districts, then we have to go through and apply their tool to see where we stand as far as our lunch prices go. So actually, the part of this form, the first part, is basically, again, explains paid lunch equity and how we get that. And then the highlighted form, or the highlighted part at the bottom, shows that after applying the tool, our weighted average price for 2016-17 was calculated to be $2.44 per meal. And again, since this was 16 cents below the $2.60, which is the weighted average price requirement, then we are required to increase our lunch prices again. Eventually, we may catch up, but it's still getting there. So on the next page, then, were my recommendations as far as that, and again, that's in calculations. The recommendations after applying the tool then would be that the elementary school lunch prices increased by 15 cents to the $2.45. Middle school prices increased by 10 cents per meal to $2.60. And high school lunch prices increased by 10 cents to $2.75. And then this would, bring up our estimated weight averages in that, to the $2.57, which is again still below the $2.60, but it's getting closer. Although the next year, keeps going up. Just to give you an idea, though, this year's prices, just for reference, average prices, and this is probably 25 districts. I've got what this year's prices are. The average elementary school lunch price is $2.40. Average middle school price was $2.62, and average high school price is $2.73. So, and that was for this present year. So again, they might have to go up too, but so we're still within line as far as outline or local districts and Milwaukee area and Washington County, Milwaukee, and so forth. So then the other fees that I just listed those two then, and that would stay. Reduced price lunches have to remain at 40 cents. Reduced price breakfast at 30. Our normal price breakfast at John Long Middle School, which we are thinking if I can find an employee to work early mornings, we are also going to put something out for the high schoolers, because there's been a request from the high school students too that they would like to have something available in the mornings. So we're working on that, and then ideally too, when the production kitchen goes to the high school, we'll definitely be here, so it will be open up for breakfast in the mornings too. So we want to start that next year. And then milk prices remaining at 35 cents. Just to mention too, that in case you hear any flack on that, our milk is, we went out to bid with the cooperative that I do my bidding with, and Prairie Farms won the milk bid, so it is no longer Kemp's milk, which has been Kemp's forever, I think, that I can remember. So this next year will be Prairie Farms is the milk distributor that or the milk company that we are going with. And then the staff visitor lunch is, would be increased to $3.50 and so forth. So, any questions or anything on any of that?
Any plans to add organic milk into your offerings?
I don't think so.
It would be a different price, obviously, but...
Yes, it would be. And in fact, some of the distributors, that we deal with don't have it inside, in the student side, that way.
Do you get any requests from parents?
No,
about
I
that?
have not. No. So,
Linda, is the PLE price requirement $2.60 or $2.86?
it's, the weighted average is $2.60, it's $2.86 is, if you go into an online, it's $2.86, but they look then at their weighted average,
Okay.
and so that's the $2.60.
Any reason why we wouldn't move our prices such that we would be at $2.60?
Only because every year that we increase, we seem to lose participation. So even, even just a few cents in that, participation keeps going down. Part of it is, lunch prices, but, and there's just been, I don't know that, drastically, the minimum, or the maximum that you have to, I should say, minimum that you would go, maximum.
Well, I know,
10 cents
yeah.
off.
I know my limited experience would be that they're having you try and step up to that price over time so that it's not a drastic increase, so you have these minimal increases that you're required to implement each year.
If it's a requirement, how can we be below the requirement?
Say that again. Sorry.
If 260 is the requirement, how can we be at 257? How is it a requirement?
Yeah, I don't.
Because there's a step up to it. So they're not going to take somebody and move them all the way up to that price requirement.
We've been
in
stepping
one
up each
particular
year, right? This is a one more step.
It's a moving target.
So it's legal, so we can, you're saying you're putting that price point at a point that you think won't deter people. Is that the only reason we're at 3 cents below 260? Because you think that's what people will not
No,
balk at?
I think what it was is actually, last year, we only went up like a nickel and that because it was we were closer to that. But then by doing that, yeah, we have to increase, again, more. I think what it is that what I have to take is, in order in the calculations, you have to take your certain number of meals and you kind of play around with it. So that's where I came closest to it by this. So, and I basically looking at, right now it's 15 cents between levels and stuff, and I think that makes more sense to people too than, otherwise I'd have to go to like an odd cents and stuff like that, so.
But this is set by your sense of what you think it should be, right?
Yes.
You could even be maybe even more than 3 cents less than the average if you wanted to?
Yes, you could. I did not have to go up by that amount, but then what happens is it carries over to the next year and then you're further behind. So it's just like, because hopefully this will go away eventually, but it doesn't, right now it's not. The only ways of getting out of even increasing is that if you had someone that gave in like an angel fund into the thing, or there's different ways that you can offset if you have like over 3 months of operating expenses in your, then we could apply for exemption and things like that. So there's different ways, but most districts have to keep creeping up, yeah. So, I don't know that anyone is there.
Well, it sounds like we're in line with the averages,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
She said.
Right, I get that, but they call it a requirement, and it sounds like a statute.
Well, it's a
and we don't-
requirement to do it. It's a requirement to use the tool to get closer to it. So it's not a requirement that you have to be at that. It's a requirement that you have to show that you're moving towards that.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, the way they word it is kind of, yeah.
Brenda, go ahead. Since this is an overview of the lunch program, to kind of follow up on Julia's question, to what extent does the lunch program, and you in particular, interact with the wellness committee to drive menus and things like, and offerings. Are we still, is that still something that's happening?
There hasn't been a wellness committee for probably 3 years. Well, we had a couple meetings, yeah, last year, but.
A year,
Yeah.
over a year.
So, yes, but that's something that needs to get going again as far as,
Are we required by state statute to have a wellness committee? I believe we are.
Julia's shaking her head yes, so I'm going to believe her. We have, Mike Kalina is our wellness, he's our employee wellness coordinator.
And he has
So we
made
do
it,
things with that.
and he has done some things like that before the start of school, that you caught piggybacks.
Even like
with
our
the-
walk, we had the walk,
Right,
a
right.
month or so ago for that PD day, and bringing in local businesses to offer healthy choices and
yeah, and I've
form
been,
and fitness, and to talk about, benefits of that and so forth.
That's the wellness committee, Mark Kleiner. Mike Kleiner.
It's employee piece.
no, and that's an employee one, the student wellness, which we have to have the policies and that updated, that has not been, we had a couple meetings last year, last school year.
There was also a parent-based wellness committee group that met probably about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right, that's the one, I think, Julia.
And I was
Yeah, you were there.
Who led that? Who led that?
No,
Yes.
Okay.
you know.
I'm sorry?
No, it's you.
Circle back to me on that. Let's talk about that and just get that back on the radar, because I believe it's a statute that we have to have it in place. I mean, there was always the danger when we did this at first, that you come up with a new policy and it's dusty on a shelf and you don't do anything with it, which is one option, but we were trying to make it a vibrant and robust, ongoing thing. So let's just revisit that, but I'll talk with you in the next week or two.
Yeah, and then I will be on that committee again, and,
The other thing that I mean, all of these prices impact Fund 50, right?
Correct.
And Fund 50 was viewed annually as needing to generate a surplus to cover maintenance costs of equipment used in the lunch service, right? Now the referendum is providing for an all-new preparation kitchen, right? So I think we need to rethink, where do we want that balance to go? And how does that balance tie back into pricing? And how does price sensitivity tie into utilization? So if the rates go up 15 cents, does our utilization go down 3%? And what impact does that have on the revenue in that fund, and ultimately the cost in the fund and the surplus that might be generated? I think we need to take a closer look at it, because the dynamics now certainly are changing with a new kitchen. And, a lot of the things that were sucking costs out of that fund now being taken care of in one fell swoop.
well, hopefully.
Well,
Yes.
Well, but the old equipment at GES is being replaced by new equipment. I think we just need to take a closer look at that as we move forward. The pricing is the pricing, and we're showing compliance with the statute by moving towards a target. I get that. But can we take over the next year a look at where should that pricing be? Be good also to have that data that you have 25 representative districts. Where do we, so we're close to the average. But are we the lowest? Are we, where are we in that ranking? Where are we relative to our immediate area?
I mean, I have, a chart of that could be included, if you want to look at, that too, so.
It would be good to have in the future, yes.
Can I ask you one more question, Linda? I remember reading that the farm-to-school coordinator position at the state level is something that may be eliminated in the next budget. Do you know anything about that?
Not a lot, other than that. I mean, the farm school program is still, viable and going.
Is that something that we utilize?
We are not on the, I should say, not on the state level, but the farm school, we basically try to incorporate, things with the, farm school type of items in that, but not necessarily that farm to school program itself has like coordinators that you bring in and things like that, and we've never gone to that level with it. But I think it's still going to be there, it's just that the lead in that is kind of stepped back a little bit.
Maybe that's something the wellness committee could discuss in the future. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Performance contract.
I'm going to turn it over to Topher and Jamie to talk to us about performance contracting and options for them.
I'm sorry, should we approve the lunch prices?
Yep, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
need a motion.
I move to approve the recommendation for the lunch prices for the school year 2017-2018.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Okay.
All right. I was hoping to still have some background music for this agenda item, but that apparently has ended.
She's talking right now. This is the jazz, it's the jazz ensemble that's going on right now, Mr. Mente?
Yes, both play instrumental.
Both London.
They had the mission in today and the other concert tonight.
All right, I've included a memo in the packet. I'm going to start off by giving sort of an overview of our capital improvement plan funding, which will be up on the screen, I'm sure, momentarily. Little less than a year ago, the district approved a capital improvement plan in conjunction with starting Fund 46. It currently includes...
Oh, is that the
Yeah,
next page? Sorry.
That's okay. It currently includes about $11.7 million in, there we go, in needs through the year 2028-29. Now, with this recently passed referendum, that addresses about $7.6 million of those needs, leaving $4.1 million remaining. Fund 46, with a goal of $1 million by June of 2021, and with a continued budget line of $100,000 a year through 2028-2029, would provide another $1.8 million to address those needs. Fund 41 currently is being used to earmark about $250,000 in the capital improvement plan. If we continue levying $50,000 a year through 28-29, that would be another $550,000, a total of $800,000, which would leave us with about $1.5 million in needs still remaining in that capital improvement plan. Now, we have an opportunity through performance contracting to potentially address some of those needs. Performance contracting involves bringing in an energy service company that would perform energy saving projects that would save the district money. That money would pay for the costs of that project. Now, I want to point out this is not the energy efficiency exemption, which is potentially going to be legislated away as of July 1st. This is performance contracting would exist with funds that are within our budget. We have roughly over $3 million of available borrowing authority that hasn't been accounted for. We do have $1 million that we're looking to use potentially to use for athletic fields. So we potentially have over $3 million that we could levy, that we could borrow to pay for these projects. Now, the idea behind it would be that this ESCO would come in, they would do lighting projects that would save energy. They would include some other projects that are in the capital improvement plan. That total cost could be borrowed in Fund 38, so that would be within our revenue limit. And those payments would be paid for with the energy savings. So it would not impact our operational budget. It would not impact the classroom. So that would be the plan going forward. And what we're recommending is that we have a special board meeting on June 12th where we would have 3 ESCOs, and these 3 ESCOs have been coming through our building since I believe it was March. We had them coming in and taking up quite a bit of Jamie's time as he's made sure they've had access to all the different portions of our building that could potentially be an energy saving project. Now at this meeting what we do is we'd have them present, we could ask questions of them, we would select one of them to then put together for future proposal an energy saving project for the board to potentially accept. Are there any questions about that process or anything else?
Is there any time limit on when the energy savings need to pay off the debt?
Basically, it would be typically what you have is a 20-year debt issue. So that payment, whatever that would be for each year, that would need to be, the way this would work is the savings that we would have through reduced utility costs. We'd be able to lower the budget, which would then balance out that debt payment. So basically, we're not looking at going beyond 20 years with a debt issuance. And also, speaking of timing, it makes sense to get this started now because we're going to have Hoffman and Company in here taking, replacing ceiling tiles. If you're going to have someone do a lighting project and we don't have lighting in existing space lighting in the referendum, so that's something that we can do in addition to the referendum that would save quite a bit of money. If we're having ceiling tiles replaced, it's going to be more cost effective to have someone else come in and do that lighting project before we put the ceiling tile back in.
Since this only applied to existing, with the referendum, we're going to be doing a lot of work.
Yes.
It'd be hard to prove a cost savings of something that isn't there yet.
That's actually, that's their job. That's what these companies do. They come in and they guarantee savings. And if the energy savings falls short, they cover the cost of that shortfall.
If the savings is greater, what happens?
That's good for us.
So they get, it's good for us, they
It's
don't
good
get
for
any
us.
of this?
Yep. They have to
extra
cover the shortfall. If the savings is better, they do not get anything out of it.
And the 3 ESCOs that have been in, that has not cost us a penny. So we don't no agreement with them. They're doing this in preparation for making a presentation to the board. So there's been no outlay of district money. It's been people that have expressed an interest and they've done walkthroughs with Jamie in presentation and getting ready for a presentation to the board. There's been no outlay of district money at all at this point.
Are these bonds that are issued?
They would be, yes. So involving that authority that we have that still exists through, I believe it's March of next year.
So we're using that authority.
We would be able to use that, yes.
Okay.
And so therefore, it would not add to taxes because it would be within the revenue limit, but it wouldn't impact the classroom because we've made it very clear we want this to be budget neutral. The energy exemption piece involves, which this is not, involves increasing that revenue limit, and you can use a portion of the savings to offset that, and the rest would be increased taxes. We've made it very clear we don't want to take on additional debt payments within the revenue limit if they aren't going to be offset with energy savings, because then you've got to cut from the classroom.
Issue costs of these financing are on us. So any costs that we'd incur to issue the debt?
Right, so we would have Baird would be involved, and the costs would be then wrapped into those debt payments.
Would be wrapped in, okay.
Any questions for Topher? Do we have a schedule on June 12th for those meetings? What time we meeting?
I think ideally 6 o'clock. Now, we do want to have a policy meeting, if it's possible to have that beforehand. I don't think policy should go too long. But if we met at 6 o'clock for this and we had the presentations, potentially a block of, at the most 45 minutes per ESCO, and then some discussion afterwards, I think 6 o'clock would be an ideal time.
Policy at what, 5 o'clock?
Well, I wouldn't think the policy issues would take all that long. I know at least 2 of them are recommended by our auditor. If you recall the audit report that occurred a few months ago, I'm not expecting the policy committee to last all that long.
We could do 5 o'clock, sure. Do you need a motion to recommend this meeting?
Yes, that would be great.
I move that we hold a special board meeting on June 12th, 2017 at 6 p.m. to hear presentations and ask questions of qualified ESCOs.
Any other questions? Do we, just out of curiosity, do we foresee other, if policy's going to be at 5, which is nice, thanks, or maybe in 5:30 if it's going to be half an hour, but do we have any other?
We do not, for that evening, we do not.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Topher.
Yeah, so I think it's important too for the community to realize that as we've gone through the referendum process, we outlined the long-term maintenance plan. We're continuing to look at that long-term plan. We're continuing to find ways to provide for the needs in our district through 28, 29. And this isn't just going to be a get through the referendum and then not have maintenance money built into our budget. We heard that loud and clear through all of our discussions and presentations. And so we want to keep that at the forefront and take advantage of, Topher's done a lot of work on this and Jamie has partnered with him on a lot of these things, and really it's an opportunity for us to put our district in a really great spot financially. So thanks to both of them. They've done a lot of work with us. So student overnight trip application, asked that the board approve the HOSA International Leadership Conference with Fran Grant as the advisor, and herself and Andrew Hudson and Brenda Jobe will be taking some students to the HOSA Future Health Professionals International Leadership Conference in Orlando, Florida. These students have qualified for the national conference because they placed at the state conference. And they have breakout sessions when they're not competing. So it's a great opportunity for them to be able to compete as well as attend some breakout sessions on leadership and within their organization and so forth. So you can see some of the fundraising pieces that they've done. It is for June 20th through the 25th, so it is after school is out, so there's no school days that are missed.
Do you have a motion to accept that recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes. And we've got a gift report.
So administration would recommend the board accept the gift from Community Memorial Hospital with Shane Scholes as the contact person. They are donating a desktop dust collector valued at $3,500. It's to be used, it's going to be for Grafton High School. It's going to be for their tech ed area. An opportunity for us to have something that we're not having to purchase. And Jamie has looked at this and determined that we were able to do electrical and so forth. So it's great that they're donating this to help us as we're updating our tech ed area.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and it passes. Dust cop, not desktop, huh? Is that what the...
Desktop, yes.
Yeah.
I believe that is the correct,
Does
because it's not
everyone
on
have
a
time?
desktop. It's a little bit bigger than that.
I had a hard time saying that as I was reading this. Okay, so we have a update on construction.
So we have, as I mentioned earlier, we had our bi-weekly owners group meeting with Hoffman, and they started off the process talking to us about the budget process and just making sure that as we're looking at our different projects, and they use the restrooms as an example at the high school that are being renovated this summer because of some issues that had occurred. We fast-tracked that and the emphasis of staying within the budget. So we have the budget line for each of our projects and to be able to stay within that. And we saw that when we went on site visits, and you sort of get an idea of what it could look like. And so they really reminded us that the emphasis of, as we're starting our projects, to be staying within that referendum budget that go with that. Some milestones that will be occurring. The start construction for additions is on September 5th. The renovations, the start of construction will be on the 4th of June 2018. And then the completion of additions and renovations is to be on August 10th of 2018. So that's their timeline that they have that we're milestoning towards. As I mentioned earlier, because they are bi-weekly through our marketing communications committee, we talked about sending out updates, and so we decided that I'll work with Jody following that meeting to have an update that we'll send out that will be relative to the project, or maybe it's to each site. As we go along, it may evolve, and I know we have a meeting in a couple weeks, so we'll talk more about that, but right now it'll just be a general update that will go along with that. We've talked a little about the scanning thing, so Kara, if you can pull that up. So we had they came in and looked at our schools. Nope.
One more to the left.
No,
Oh, you mean when I just closed?
no, not that one. It isn't that one. They keep going. You want to go to the second or third one? And you just close that one. Okay, maybe you're not going to see the scanning.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So they came through and they did they popped some ceiling tiles up, and then we found out that, well, then the sound isn't going to be so great and the ceiling tiles aren't able to go back up. So we decided, well, instead of having that impact student learning, we're going to just leave it alone. Jamie will work with their group. They'll pop some ceiling tiles up manually, take a scan of the upper area, and do it that way. That all impacts student learning. So that was one of the things we did. Well, they've completed their scanning of Woodview and Kennedy and the high school. And so it actually is a 3D version. It's called TrueView. It's basically a 3D browser. It does viewing, measurement, and markup environment on the 3D point cloud. So it basically acts as a web homepage, which consists of a site plan, floor plan graphic as a base, with each scan position hyperlinked to the corresponding virtual location in the 3D point cloud data. So the scan position hyperlink is basically shown with an arrow. So if you click, we're in the media center, so if you click the media center one there, it'll give an idea of what it looks like on a scan, and she can 3D, she can rotate, you can move, you can go in and out. That's out. If you move your mouse that way, it'll move with you. Yeah, they hold it down.
Oh, there we go.
So you can see it'll do a full 3D. You can see the ceiling, the floor. Be sure to keep it around. If you click one of these, it'll open the door, like what's in that door. So we're over there. What's in the door? You can see we've pulled out the ceiling tiles there, so they can see into the rafters. Where's the venting? Where's the ductwork? How much space is between that? If we wanted to raise the ceiling a little higher, how much could we get? All those pieces. So every room in our district has been completed in this 3D viewing piece, and as it scrolls through. So it's just a scan piece that if you go back to the original, you can see that there's hundreds. Oh, one more thing. You can see how many scans there are just on the first floor. And we click on the second floor at the high school, I go to Kennedy, I go to Woodview, that would sort of go with that. So there's definitely process being done, a lot of work being done behind the scenes that we aren't even aware of. And then Hoffman and their consultants will be working on these different spaces and designing it and so forth. So part of Hoffman's fee was to select consultants that are high quality and local when possible. And so they'd reached out to Jamie and Topher and I, specifically Jamie, saying, what contractors have you used? What people in the area have you used for various functions that they need to contract out for? And so we wanted to share out who those consultants were that they'd hired. So the pace that we're going at and the designs that need to occur, they brought on a design assistance team, and they hired Growth Design, which is located in Cedarburg. For door hardware, they hired LaForce, which is out of Menominee Falls. Food service consultant is the only one that's not in our area. It's Stewart Design Associates. They're in Fitchburg. Mechanical engineering is from Frederick Engineering, which is in Mequon. Plumbing, electrical technology, and fire protection engineers is Mead and Hunt, and they are located in Wauwatosa. And then the structural engineer is Ambrose Engineering out of Cedarburg. There was one engineer that, our civil engineer, that they went out to bid, and there was 5 bids that were brought forward. Hoffman then vetted each one of them individually, speaking with them specifically about the scope of the plan, our timeline. They're making sure that their bid was accurate for what we were asking for. And out of those 5, then Jamie, Topher, and I conferenced with Hoffman, and based on the recommendation that they had, the quality of work that this company had done in other districts, and the fact that they're going to be able to keep up with our timeline. They have a couple projects falling off at the same time as ours will be coming on. We selected Rattler Corporation, which is out of Stevens Point, and so they'll be our civil engineer that will help us not only in our site plan, but also looking at our athletic fields as well in that whole discussion. So that's really, I think there's one other soil boring consultant. Yes, soil boring consultant is the only other thing that they go out to bid on, that we'll be looking at that and rely on Jamie's expertise in that area. So that's some of our consultant pieces. One of the things that's come out since that meeting is the The phone lines for GHS they're attached to district office. And so as construction project begins at GHS to add those new classrooms on the west side of the building, that the tunnel connecting GHS and the district office and GES is going to be taken down, and the phone lines will be severed. There's a couple different options. There's one that's a temporary option where they'd be running copper, 100 feet of copper to the high school in order to have those phone lines. There's another option of looking at a long-term solution. And we've talked before about our phone system being a little old and not even having basic abilities, like if I miss a call, being able to look to see who I missed. If I miss it, you just miss it. There's also not an ability to have voicemails immediately transfer into your email, so you can access them wherever you are. And so there's an option for us to look at a short-term solution as well as a long-term solution. We're working with Pete and Rick on that solution. We have in our budget, we've looked at our budget. We have money in our budget. We aren't coming back to say we need help with fund balance or anything else. We're looking at our budget to see how does that work. What will the short-term savings be if we were to do the long-term solution? What's the short-term cost? Do those help or hurt that long-term solution? So we're looking at that now. It's something that's come up here at the end, and it's as we go through the construction process, there'll be little things like that that we're trying to address and make sure we make good short-term solutions, but also good long-term solutions with our budgetary dollars as well as the referendum project. So more information will be coming, but that just recently came to the forefront, and we're working on that. So keeping you up to date with that. And then site visits. If you read those updates, we want to thank the Oak Creek Franklin as well as the Kettle Moraine School District for allowing our elementary team to assist. And I don't think we listed the people, so I wanted to thank them. They took time out of their classrooms. Jennifer Andrews is the music department. Susie Beatty is one of our speech teachers. Kathy Korb in special ed. Molly Lucarelli in 3rd grade. Pat Mangan in 4th. Rebecca Meisinger in kindergarten. Bob Perry in 4th grade. And Mary Beth Starr in 2nd grade. So we wanted to, each building, we asked for them to send 3 people from each building. One was a specialist, so whether it's music or speech or phy-ed or whatever it may be, art. We asked for a pre-K through 2 and then a 3rd through 5. We had one teacher that wasn't able, she wasn't able to make that visit that day, so we only had 8 teachers, but we had representation from each of our buildings. We had the 3 building principals, Jamie, Topher, myself, as well as Carrie Walls came along with us on the elementary site visits. And then for the high school, thanks to Franklin and Kettle Moraine School Districts for allowing us to come and see their buildings. And for that, we had Sean Barron, a special ed teacher, Mike Dodge, Kevin Gain, and Carl Hayter in the tech ed area, Fran Grant for Project Lead the Way, Kate Hart in our music, you can hear her playing now, Mike Kalina in phy-ed, Melissa Stouty as science, and Aaron Sumner as our computer science math teacher. And then we also, on this visit, we also had Mr. Manti, Topher, Jamie, myself, Rick, and we had Julia, Carrie, Joe, and Steve also come along on that trip and got some great feedback and great ideas that we saw, and we're excited to see what on moving to the next thing, what Hoffman brings back on Wednesday from both those elementary site visits as well as the high school pieces. So following our meeting on Friday with the team, we then had a discussion about Hoffman has an interior design group that will give suggestions for various finishes and paint color and so forth, and so we're working at bringing a small group of teachers similar to like the site team visits that we had, and similar, and so at the high school it'd be those that are being affected in those areas, bringing them together to work with Hoffman to be able to make quick selections on various things and having discussions about carpet versus luxury vinyl laminate or tile and all those pieces and what that cost measure means as well. And there's a document that I'll be sending out that Jamie found for us that I'll be sending out to the board as well as teachers that were on the site visit that gives a 20-year cost for each one. So some may have an initial cost estimate that's higher than others, but over the course of maintenance and all those different pieces, over 20 years, what's the cost per square foot? So it's a great front and back page so we can make informed decisions, not only short term, but also long term, sort of that theme that goes with that. And then our athletic fields, last but not least, Jamie, Topher, and I are meeting on Wednesday morning with the varsity soccer, baseball, and softball coaches. So we've had individual conversations with them, but this will be the first time we get everyone together in the same room and have a group conversation. We're going to be discussing potential timelines for construction, as well as individual needs for each site, and then what the district what the district responsibility is to pay for those things, what are some of the things that the sport may be interested in fundraising in order to receive, what are the needs versus the wants, what's their part in moving forward to that, as well as the district's part. Working with Rattler as we develop through this, baseball and softball may need to be done in conjunction with all of the other landscaping that they're doing and the site plans and those types of things in order for it to be cost effective, because you'll have the parking lot, you'll have the drainage, all those designs are going to tie into our athletic, the baseball, softball area there. So that's something that as we start working with Rattler, we'll find out more about that, but we'll just be starting that process of getting that conversation going with them. So a lot of things happening, but very exciting to be having those things happening.
What time are the design charrettes?
3 o'clock for the high school and 3:45 for elementary. And it's in here, so there's a big space, move back and forth, that would go with that.
Any other questions for Jeff on the construction update? Thank you, Jeff. For a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Oh, you can.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.